welcome to the fourth video in this series where I'm going to show you some more advanced techniques of isolating specific areas of your model so that you can apply things like translucency or transparency. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. All right, so for this video, what I'm going to show you is something that is slightly more advanced, but not because it is more complicated, just because it requires more steps. And that would be my definition of advanced. If it requires more steps to get to it, but it's not because it is more complex. It's actually really simple. And we're going to concentrate on the aim here, or that sort of like glass area. I think it could be glass or a plastic here, right? Because right now it is opaque, and obviously you cannot see the aim. So we're going to concentrate on that. So let's go ahead and start by adding a new layer, and we're going to call this one aim, or whatever you want. Aim should be okay. All right, so we already know how to isolate and how to select specific areas of your model. So what I'm going to do is create a folder for this aim. Let's create a folder here. Let's drop it in there, and let's call this one aim as well. This one actually should be glass. So that way we have different layers with different materials and they're all within this folder. And let's go ahead and also right click and add an orange color just so we know whatever we put in here, it is tagged with this color and we know what we're talking about. Let's click on the black mask and let's select a paint layer. Again, this is a very basic process. We've done that in the previous videos. And I'm going to use this tool to select that whole section. All right. So there's no change because the color is the same. So in fact, let's just make it a, I don't know, blue color, right? So that section right here, it now has this color and is restricted to this mask. So whatever we put in this folder is going to be in this area. All right, now that we have this, let's go ahead and add some scratches before we turn this into a proper glass, just because it would be fun to show a little bit of the wear and tear. And that gives us kind of like the first step into the custom texturing that we're going to do in the next videos. So I'm going to click on another fill layer, and I'm going to call this one scratches. And for the scratches, I'm going to go to my library. I'm going to select this icon and I'm going to type scratches. And I'm going to use these grunge scratches. I'm going to try that, drop that in here. So that basically creates a black mask automatically. And it drops this generator here, right? And of course, it is a little bit too large. So we can do a couple of things. We can tile it. So if I increase the tiling, we will be able to see a bit more of that, of those scratches. Maybe something like this. I think this will be all right, okay? So that would be the scratches. Again, they're not perfect, like the resolution is not great. That has to do with the actual map. And I'm working at 4K, I should have mentioned that. I'm working at 4K in my document, but at the time of the export, we can export at 8K if necessary. I just think that these details, unless you go this close, you won't see the resolution. But it's important to be subtle about it. So we have the scratches now. The scratches are going to be only information in the height and the roughness. So I'm going to toggle the color. I'm going to enable rough and height. And the height, I'm going to push that to minus 0.01. Something super, super subtle. I don't think that you can see it. Yeah, maybe from this angle you can, right? And because they are scratches, I potentially, can make this a bit rougher. And then we can work on the glass material. All right, so these are just a quick detail just to make this a bit more interesting. But now we need to make this transparent, right? And I will show you why I wanted to do two different materials with before I show you the transparency. So now that I have this, let's take this glass and turn it into a glass. So I make it rough, and I'm going to reduce that roughness quite a bit. And then the color, I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so now we're just going to play with the roughness. But there's no way to see through it, even if I just play with the roughness, metallic, or any of that, because we don't have that property just yet. So once you have your material set up and your folder and you have established where you want that sort of translucent material to appear, you can go to the texture set settings. And in here, you have the channel. So you see all of these ones right here are what we have in the material. All we need to do is click on the plus icon, and we're going to go to translucency. And that adds a new channel. And you see it is in here. So now we have access to translucent or translucency qualities of the material. And just to have fun with this, I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus button here, and I'm going to click on absorption color. So the absorption color, this one right here, is different from the actual color because with anything that is translucent, you can play around with a color that is, let's say, a portion of the wavelength that is trapped or diffuse or refracted within the medium if it is thick, and it will absorb that color, right? So we can play with that and fake that by adding a specific color. So with that said, once we have these channels, what I can do is enable translucency and enable absorption color. Again, nothing happens because everything is set to 0. So I can take my translucency and push it all the way to 1, and you see nothing happens again, right? Because all I'm doing right now is telling the software, look, we want to have this channel enabled, which we've done by creating it, and we want to have this at maximum. So we want this to be super translucent. But now we need to take the shader, which is essentially how the software knows how to interpret the qualities of that material that we're setting up. And we want to tell the software, we want the shader to accept, or we want to enable that translucency. So we're going to go to the shader settings here. And at the bottom here where it says interior, we can click on enable translucency. And that's it. And as soon as we do that or enable this in the shader, we now have translucent material, right? And now I can see that the scratches are very, very sharp. Don't worry, we'll change that in a bit. But we now have translucency. We can also click on enable absorption. And this is going to enable us to go to the properties again and change this color to anything we want. So I think maybe something red would be really cool. So you see now we have a, an absorbent medium or a translucent medium that has this color, right? And now we can go ahead and if you want something a little bit more frosty, you can push the roughness. So to see like less clarity in a way. So it's a bit more cloudy. But in my case, I want something very sharp. And I can definitely change the amount of scratches that we have here. So let's go back to layers. I want to go back to scratch, turn that off, so you can see we have this like simple, nice, clean, glass or plastic going through. And if I enable the scratches, it's a little bit more dirty. So I want to go ahead and take these scratches. Let's go back in here, and I'm going to set this to 15 just to make them smaller. And also, I'm going to go into the mask itself, so pressing the Alt key, right? So this is what is happening. So anything white is what we see. I'm going to contrast this quite a bit so we have less of those noisy scratches and play with the balance. So this is going to be very, very subtle. All right, so let's go back in here. So that's not too bad. All I need to do is change this height information a bit more. So I'm going to set it to 0.03 and maybe make this less rough, like so. So when it comes to texturing, it's all about the subtlety. So you might not even see it unless it is in a specific angle. So I want to make sure that that's what I have. But that's essentially it. So just as a quick recap, because I know I tend to go in, and branch out. All you need to do really when you want to work with translucency is, I'm going to do it in another layer as an example. So you create your layer, you go to your texture set settings, you create the channels that you want to work with, in this case, translucency and absorption. From the layer itself, you enable that. So I'm going to enable translucency, absorption. By default, even if you push this to 1, you won't be able to see through it. So you need to go to the shader settings and click on enable translucency as well as absorption. That's it. So you can summarize this entire tip in that last section that I just created. But that's basically what I would suggest. The important thing, I guess, or the takeaway is that you can have different materials, even if it is the same object. And that is all thanks to the masking tips, right? Or the masking tools. All right, so that is pretty much it. So that's it for this tip. Hopefully you find this useful. And in the next video, we're going to start adding complexity to the actual textures. I'll see you there.